All right, welcome back. Today what we're going to be talking about are a few different portable items that we would have in a wood shop. And I'm going to surround my discussion regarding a few different tools like our circular saw, router, and jigsaw. Some pointers to make at the very start. How to go about turning them on and off. When it comes to our circular saws, we have a little safety switch. It's this little toggle switch right here at the very top where I'm having to push down. It automatically springs back up. But within an upward position, I can't pull that trigger in order to start it. But by pushing that trigger down, I can pull my little switch in order to turn it on. Router just has a little switch along the side where I just flip up and it's able to turn on. When I'm done with operation, pushing it down, turns it off. And then I have my jigsaw. Again, there's a little safety button along with this jigsaw in order to pull my trigger as I'm making any type of cuts. I think it goes without explanation that whenever I'm making any kind of cut, especially with the corded machine like the router or the jigsaw, is I make sure that while in operation of making any kind of cut or routing, is that the cord is out of the pathway in which I'm making any kind of cut or route. So that way I'm not going to be cutting my cord. But during the whole heat of operation, a lot of times we get so focused on trying to make that perfect cut, that perfect route, that we forget exactly where that cord is when we go about doing our work, risking either disrupting our operation or worse, actually hitting it while you're making a cut or while you're routing an edge of a piece of wood. Let me first start by making a couple of points regarding the circular saw. Like that of any saw that we have, whether it be miter saw or table saw, I make sure that I have all of my guards in place. A few additional features regarding the circular saw is the fact that I could be able to adjust this platform or rest as I'm making a cut. If I do need to adjust the depth, how far is this blade going to go into my work? This little switch back here, if I flip it up, I could be able to slide this platform up or down. The real important thing is, and it's just like that of the table saw, I want to have as little of that blade showing on the opposite side of which I'm going to be making my cut, okay? So yes, I do want to make sure that I'm going through my work, but I don't want to have that risk of a whole lot of blade showing on the opposite side. So that way I have less of a chance of coming in contact with that blade. I'm only going to have so much show on the other side, anywhere between 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch on the opposite end of that material that you're making a cut. That's how much I want to have of that blade showing. Similar to that of a table saw. Another item to point out here is if ever I'm going to be making an angled cut. I have this little dial right here, and I could be able to slide my platform up or down in order to make an angled cut between blade and that rest. Pay attention to how fast you have that circular saw travel down its cut. You don't want to stress out the blade, and of course, with any kind of work that you're doing with wood shop, if there is strength involved, you're doing something wrong. You should be able to cut with ease. By forcing that saw in order to make a cut, you run the risk of having that blade either catch or bind. We want to put as little stress on that blade as we can. Preventing it from binding, we run less risk of either doing damage to our project, but also doing less risk of damaging our tool. Keep hands clear of the pathway. And also, we want to maintain balance. Whenever we're making a cut, we're handling with two hands. We're not just going to be relaxed and just cutting with one single hand. Two hands in order to have control of your saw as you're making a cut. And as I stated, we're maintaining balance. Whenever I'm making a cut, I'm not going to stretch, because we may be having that situation of maybe we're cutting a piece of plywood where we're going to be having that rest and having to really stretch in order to get to the other side. In those cases, I never want to lose balance, staying on one foot. You're talking about handling a saw. You're talking about handling a tool that's going to have a sharp blade. If you're going to be losing your balance, you run the risk of injury, especially dealing with this kind of equipment. Maintain balance when making the cut. When using a router, a few pointers to make when using a router. If ever you want to adjust the depth of this equipment here, there's a little lock on the back side of the router in which you could be able to adjust and slide the platform. And this little bolt, by rotating it, you're able to raise this router either up or down, adjusting the depth in which that you are making your your cut, routing your edges on your piece of wood. And of course, our jigsaw, similar situations that we would encounter with a jigsaw to our circular saw. And one thing I got to point out that's a real advantage with the jigsaw compared to our circular saw is I can make my turning cuts a lot sharper than I can with a circular saw. The circular saw, I'm not going to be making any kind of sudden turn. For a circular saw, I'm going to more often use that for any kind of straight cut. Never make sudden turns with a circular saw. With a circular saw, it's just straight cuts. Never turns. Circular saw, if I turn it, that's going to bind up that blade, and that's where, as you're making a cut, you'll hear it bog down, and all of a sudden you're going to have it jump back. That kickback is from that pinch from making a turn. Just a straight cut. Maintain that straight path. Avoid any kind of long sleeves, jewelry. Again, loose clothes, jewelry, long hair, either adjust or remove when it comes to using these items. And then, of course, one last point I want to make is support the material that you're looking to make the cut. If you're going to be cutting longer stretches of wood, avoid having that wood either drop on you. Also, make sure that you have enough support that as you're making that cut, you're not going to have that saw or router drop. So have the appropriate amount of support on the underside of the material that you are looking to either route or cut with circular saw or jigsaw. So have the appropriate accommodations to make sure that you have the support in order to hold the material so that way it does not drop, risking damage and hurting you or damage to the project that you're looking to create.